This is the Blaze Radio On Demand.
The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews is calling on all friends of Israel to show their support today. At a time when terrorism and anti-Semitism are at an all-time high, the Jewish people need strong friends like you who will proudly say, I stand for Israel. Go to www.ifcj.org/blaze to claim your free U.S.-Israeli flag pin today. Wear it as a strong symbol of your solidarity, faith, and resolve. ifcj.org/blaze.
Gosh, I cannot. I warn you, if you thought anytime this show might make your head blow off, I want you to go get the duct tape and wrap it tightly around your head. Because the entire day before starting this show, all we have heard, Jeffy and I, from Pat and Stu is, how is Chris so great? Oh, my gosh.
I'm sorry.
It might be a little early in the first place.
Too soon.
And some of us think that Prince was one of the greatest artists of our generation.
We're trying to pay our
come on.
The truth lives here.
We start there
Come
right
on.
now.
I will make a stand. I will raise my voice. I will hold your hand. 'Cause we have won. I will beat my drum. I have made my choice. We will overcome. 'Cause we are
The fusion of entertainment and enlightenment. This is the Glenn Beck Program.
Come on. Top 100? Yes, sir.
Come on.
Oh, come on. I can't. You pipe down.
Come on.
Pipe down.
I mean,
Some of us are in mourning. Some of us wore purple today.
You did wear a little
did.
purple.
look,
Some of us are in mourning.
I want to first say, I really am sad that he died.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't want to talk about his death. I just want
No.
to talk about his life today.
Yeah.
But, I mean-
it is sad that he's gone at 57. I mean, that's way too soon.
Tragic.
And he was fine.
And you know what I really like? I like taking my kids to the concerts of the people that I liked, because my kids are into a lot of the music that I grew up with.
Sadly.
And be able to see Prince. Another 5-8 years, I would have taken my kids to see Prince.
Yeah.
And he was great. Did you ever see him in concert?
No.
Did you ever see him
I
in
would
concert?
never go to a Prince
I would
concert.
never go to a
Never.
concert.
You guys don't know what you missed.
I didn't buy an album of his or a CD.
I
wouldn't go to a
have
concert.
lots of CDs. I have lots of his music on my iPad. I love Prince.
I know. and
I saw him
You have lots
4
of Barry Manilow,
times.
though, too. So let's put it into proper
No,
perspective.
he is not. Look,
You know.
Barry Manilow was a great cheesy jingle singer.
Yeah.
That's what he did. He pumped out the hits. And I have a great respect for Barry Manilow for what Barry Manilow did. He pumped out the hits.
Yeah, he did. Yes, he did.
Prince was an unbelievable performer. You never saw him. You never saw
I'm
him.
sure he was a fine performer.
No.
I've seen
Very
him on,
talented guy.
I've seen him on
Iconic
videos.
artist.
I've seen him
It's
in
not the same.
concert videos. I know how he performs.
Iconic artist
Good
of
at
our
that.
time.
When I said to you,
But I
Michael
keep seeing-
Bublé, hang on. When I said to you, Michael Bublé is the best performer I've ever seen on stage, you were like,
No, I wasn't.
yes,
no, I
you
wasn't
were.
because I was a huge Bublé fan. I really liked it.
I hyped you up, and you were like,
No.
you're going to wreck this for me. There's no way he's
never
that good.
poo-pooed Michael Bublé. I mean,
Live.
I didn't poo-poo him.
No, before you went to see him,
Yeah, I know.
you were like, you're wrecking him for me. Nothing can live up to this. And he lived up to it. Prince was the same way as a performer.
Yes.
He was unbelievable.
You know, but I keep seeing these adjectives attached to him, like innovative, groundbreaking. What? What do you innovate? He sounded just like every other performer of that era. What ground did he break?
He did not.
What did he break?
First of all, he
What
brought
ground? What was groundbreaking?
He brought funk into pop for the masses, hit after hit after hit.
Funkadelic didn't do that. Earth, Wind, and Fire didn't do that.
Let's look.
Commodores
Earth, Wind, and Fire
didn't
was
do that.
not Funkadelic.
Come on.
No.
Earth, Wind, and Fire was not funk.
Funkadelic was Funkadelic.
And Funkadelic, look up how many hits Funkadelic had.
Like
Right.
one?
Yes, look how many hits Prince had. Prince was a hit machine and brought
ground had been
funk into
broken.
mainstream.
I mean, Prince had a good career.
Rick James? Rick James preceded Prince.
How many did he have?
Several.
He brought compared to Prince. Prince was a white, a James Brown for the white man. He brought funk and Rick James into the white culture. He was a massive crossover artist.
I don't think there's
massive.
I don't think there's an argument to say that Prince was not a big 1980s pop star.
He was a pop star.
But the level he's at is like, oh my gosh, this is the most innovative, incredible artist of generations. And
no way.
I think he's one of the best artists of my. I think he's one of the best artists of my life.
Oh,
great musician.
What?
He was a great musician.
What?
Great musician. Great piano player. Great guitarist. I think one of the.
He was a serviceable guitarist. Come on.
He
One
was
of your people
one.
love
I'm going to hit you so hard. I think he was one of the best guitarists around. I have. You ready for this?
Serviceable.
You know who said?
I want Eddie Van Halen on the phone right now.
No, okay, when you
want him on the phone.
You know who you really like? Think he's a great guitarist? Who thought Prince was a great guitarist?
Who?
Eric Clapton.
Oh, come on. Eric Clapton doesn't think Prince is a...
Yeah. Oh, yes, he does.
No, he doesn't.
Yes, he does.
I want to see that. I want to see that comment. Eric Clapton said Prince was a great guitarist.
There's a difference, though. Prince didn't apply. Like, he was a great technical guitarist by many, many tellings. But, he didn't apply it in his music that often. You listen to a lot of the songs.
You never went to his concert. Jeffy, half of his concert, a third of his concert was him playing guitar solos.
And
they were unbelievable.
Great.
But that's not what he's known. It's not what he was known for in his most popular songs. Like, there are guitar solos in there, and he's an impressive guitar player.
The guitar solo in Purple Rain is great.
But that's one song. Listen to he had how many number one hits did Prince have?
I don't know.
5.
4 or 5?
He had 5.
Do you know what they were?
I'm going to guess Little
Red Corvette, Raspberry Beret.
Hold on. So
Purple Rain.
Little Red Corvette was not a number one song.
Oh.
Okay. I was looking for the crap.
Purple Rain.
Purple Rain was not a number one song.
You're kidding.
And Doves Cry.
When Doves Cry is 1.
Diamonds and Pearls? No.
1999. Diamonds and Pearls wasn't even a hit. 1999.
1999 is not a number one song.
Cream.
Really?
Cream is a number one song. That's 2.
Cream is a number one.
I liked Cream. That's probably my favorite song of that.
Blows me away.
And again, but there's like, it's not
I
like
tell
a
you, I'm
guitar
baffled
song.
by the whole Prince discussion.
No. He was a hit machine.
Well,
He was
as we're
great.
finding out, maybe not that much of a hit machine. And we've got 2 so far.
2 number 1 out of 5 number 1.
5.
I mean, how many number ones do you meet every day?
To put this into sports analogy that you won't understand, Prince was an all-star. He's not a first ballot Hall of Famer. He was a guy who made the All-Star team 5 years in a row.
Wow,
that's what he was.
I believe he was
analogy.
also. Look this up, Jeff.
Good analogy.
I don't know this that well, but I believe he was a great producer as well.
Oh, you will not believe what was number 1.
When asked what it feels like to be the best guitarist alive.
Hang on.
It's unreal.
Hang on. Listen, here comes the
That
quote.
is unreal.
Here comes the quote.
Asked what it feels like to be the best guitarist alive, Eric Clapton said, I don't know. Ask Prince.
Yeah, he's joking. It's a
No,
joke.
he is not.
It's a joke.
He is not.
Get out of here. I want to talk to Eric. Get Eric Clapton on the phone. I want to talk to him about this.
He was great
either
guitarist.
smacked out on heroin or it was a joke.
Did you also look up? I think Prince was a great producer. I think he produced.
He did a lot of that.
A lot of really.
And again, he was very influential. There's a lot of people who cite him as the guy. I just don't see it. I have never seen it.
I think.
Okay, so the number one songs.
Cream, and by the way, Cream. You and I worked at the same station together. I don't think we even played Cream.
I don't think so.
Prince.
I like.
It was a number 1 song. We never played it.
Cream.
It's weird.
When Doves Cry.
Yes.
Let's Go Crazy.
Oh, hate
number 1.
Let's
Kiss.
Go Crazy song.
And I would say probably the
this
peak.
is the weirdest one of all.
I would say probably the peak of Prince, and the thing that I will always remember him by. And I ask you today to go on YouTube and find this and watch it. And don't stop a minute in. Watch the entire thing.
This is unreal.
Is the 5th number 1, Bat Dance. Watch the entire thing today if you do nothing else.
Why?
It is the most bizarre.
I bet.
terrible.
So innovative.
Well, it was wasn't that with Jack Nicholson.
Awful, where he's mouthing words from the movie.
Oh.
Again, he had 5 number ones. 20% of those number ones were Bat Dance.
You can't count Bat Dance.
What do you mean?
That was that was we were all stoned apparently when that whole movie came out. That was bad. Was that Michael Keaton or was that George Clooney?
It was 89, so that was Keaton.
It was maybe the second one. I will say
That was, you remember that? Remember when Batman, that first one came out in 89? That was enormous.
It was
That's
enormous.
all we talked about was that movie.
it was huge, and the song was huge on as well. I mean, he barely sings in it at all. It's
I don't
the
even
weirdest.
remember that.
It's so bad. And when you watch it again, it's 50 times as bad as you remember it, if you remember it.
I don't remember.
But it was a number one song. Which
may have blocked it out. Give me his other hits.
Okay, he had a bunch of other top tens.
Yeah.
He had
Several that were number 2.
Purple Rain went to number 2. I Would Die For You, number 8.
Great song.
Raspberry Beret, number 2.
You Got the Look.
Pop Life.
That one?
I don't remember that. Number 7. A Love Bizarre, number 11. Then Sign of the Times, number 3. You Got the Look, number 2. Alphabet Street, number 8.
Great song.
Then Thieves in the Temple, number 6.
Diamonds and Pearls was actually number 3.
Yes,
I
Diamonds
thought
and
that
Pearls.
wasn't a hit.
I didn't.
I didn't. You
played
know
it.
why? Because we worked at the same station. We didn't do that
never
song.
played that kind of stuff.
So Diamonds and Pearls, number 3. The song 7 was number 7. The Most Beautiful Girl in the World was
3?
went to number 3. And then that's pretty much it.
Little no, did you?
Oh, and that's pretty much it.
No, so I mean,
that's
it's
it
a
for
good-
his top tens. That's pretty much
You
it.
a good
mentioned
career.
Little
That's a
Red
good pop
Corvette
career.
with number 6.
Yeah, that's a good career.
I Want to Be Your Lover, number
It's a
11.
great career.
Delirious.
Good career.
I will tell you.
That's he
Prince
scored,
played a
he
role.
scored 18.9
I
points
knew-
per game and
I'm
had
not
7
denying.
rebounds.
I'm not
knew-
denying he had a good career.
I knew I loved Tanya Colonna and was going to make her Tanya Beck because of a Prince concert, and she wasn't there.
That's what I mean. You have a personal connection to the music, which I can understand that you might have that emotional thing. But we're really more fact guys on this side of the room.
No.
That's kind of what we're doing
No,
over
I
here.
I loved it before, but I will tell you that my relationship with Tanya, I knew at a Prince concert.
Wow.
I'll tell you this. I'll tell you a story here in a second. First, up at the ranch, there is a competition going on. Who can live longer, me or the snakes? And so far, I'm winning. Yeah, my kids and apparently Jeffy is disappointed by that. I have the Snake Slayer from Bond Arms, and it's like a double-barrel shotgun. It's a little teeny Derringer, little teeny 410 shotgun shells. The snakes don't survive, and it is fantastic. I mean, I'm waiting for the next snake to happen. But anyway, every time you shoot a gun from Bond Arms, you will feel how solid and how sturdy. They're made here in Texas. They are great guns. For your personal protection, you want a gun that will stop any threat. Bond Arms is capable and make you feel confident when you are holding the gun and firing the gun. The best thing is the barrels come off, and you can use 12 different calibers of ammunition. You buy one, and then you can just buy the different barrels, and it's really simple. You just pop it on, screw it in tight, and you can use 12 different ammunition calibers for a Bond Arms gun. Made here in Texas. If you're a gun collector or a first-time gun buyer, choosing a gun is very, very personal. Do what you think is best, but when you're checking all the guns out, see what Bond Arms has to offer. Go to blazebond.com. That's blazebond.com.
I will make a stand. I will raise my voice. I will hold your hand. 'Cause we have won.
This is the Glenn Beck Program.
Mercury.
The founder of this company 10 years ago was trying to sell his house. He's kind of an important guy. And he said to his wife, if this is what it's like for us, how do people who have no clout ever get around this? So he started a company and it went into business, I think 3 years ago. Their deal is their word is their bond. And they are people that listen to the show. They are just like you. Now, how can I say that? Because I'm the founder of the company. RealestateAgentsITrust.com.
listening to the Glenn Beck Program.
So I knew it was love with Tanya when it was the fourth time that I had seen Prince, and usually I was in the nosebleed, and I had saved up my money, and this is a time, Stu, we knew each other at this time, and you know how broke I was.
Yes.
And I had saved up my money, and I bought 2 front row seats.
Nice.
And I went with a friend, and I had just met Tanya. We had been dating for, I don't know, about a month or so. And I had already given my ticket, the other ticket, to the friend. And so I couldn't say, hey, dude, you're not a chick. I went, and I am literally front row. I am probably 6 feet away from Prince the whole time, right at the piano, where he's playing the piano. And he was awesome to watch, especially close. He had the high energy that really, James Brown probably was the closest, don't you think?
Maybe.
I mean, there's nobody in the category of James Brown as far as energy on stage, but, I mean, he had that same...
Prince always did.
Yeah, he still kind of had that same kind of feel. It was awesome. I don't remember what he's saying, Purple Rain or something, and it was like an hour into it, and I look over at my friend, and I just wanted to be with Tanya. And I'm like, okay, man, I'm out. He's like, what? He's screaming, what? And I swear to you, I thought Prince would just stop and go, dude, what the hell is wrong with you? But that's what so Prince plays a role with my love with Tanya.
That is a very cool story. It's also a story in which you walked out of a Prince concert, which is what I would have done as well. So we have that in common.
Pat, one of the things that you'd be very proud of Prince, though, is... him being in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah, jeez. That's what I'm saying.
Your guy's not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Exactly
what it is.
I'm saying about the Hall of Fame.
Do you know why I think that is?
Oh,
could you look this up, Jeffy? Did you look up his producing?
It talks about his...
He played a big role with a lot of people. I'm not up on all of it. It's been years since I paid attention to music. But he played a big role with a lot of people.
Yeah, and a lot of people are really mourning. I mean, he was a big influence, and it is a terrible tragedy. The reverence he receives, to me, strikes. It's like the Beatles almost. I mean, people.
No, he wasn't. Let's get it into
this
perspective.
guy.
You know how many albums he sold?
No.
20 million.
Now, in perspective, we just ran this number. Kenny Chesney's has sold 30 million.
20 million.
In an era where no one buys music.
Jeez.
That's not a lot.
It's anemic in when you got Foreigner who sold 80 million.
He was busy making movies and getting Academy Awards as well, so he didn't have time to...
He was.
I mean,
a lot of albums, Pat.
You don't just measure it.
Don't worry about it.
How many Grammys did he win?
He was loved by critics, right?
Yeah,
and it's not all about clearly. I mean, most of the artists I like have sold like 9 records. So I mean, you can't just say number ones and on album sales. He obviously was a huge influence to a lot of people. Usually, though, I can see it. Like, Michael Jackson. I was not a Michael Jackson fan, but I could see it. I get it. There's a lot of rock bands that are, especially older rock bands that are influential. Like, not my favorite, but I can see it. With Prince, it's like he strikes me as one of those like decent 80s artists that stuck around and had a good run. But that was it.
He had talent on stage, but he also he had musical depth to him. He was less his pop music and more what he did for music, more of his producing and his sheer skill in music, not necessarily his pop.
He should have applied it to his music.
Why? It was working well for him.
But why didn't he just do those things that he was so innovative on and then just do them with him associated to them? Why do bat dance instead?
Well, let bat dance go, man.
And I will say this about Prince. I can't think of... I mean, the guy he's been around since 1978. He probably came into prominence in the psyche of the country in about 1980.
Yeah.
So he's around for 36 years. I can't think of a scandal involving him. I mean, we know about some of the women he dated, but he never beat them that I can think of. He never had some kind of weird
he was always
himself to children.
Anytime
he
you
didn't
ever
do anything, drug scandals.
Anytime you ever heard of him, you always heard of him in a awesome sort of way.
Yeah. Which is really cool.
Eric Clapton saying,
that's really
greatest guitarist alive, Prince. That
President Obama issuing a statement calling him one of the most gifted.
I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it.
Calling him nobody's spirit was stronger, bolder.
No, because
he didn't mention Chris Kyle, but he mentioned
exactly right. Exactly right. I heard that come out within hours.
I know.
Of the death of Prince, within hours.
It came out
and we are
afternoon.
still waiting for a recognition of Chris Kyle.
Yeah.
It's outrageous.
It is.
But rest in peace, Prince.
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean, definitely that.
Definitely. I mean, it's really sad. 57, and to me,
that's the scary thing
because of the way he's been elevated in the media, like to that level. I mean, really, those '80s people, those huge '80s people, especially solo artists, Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, Prince,
all gone.
All three of them. I mean, those three are kind of in that same.
Donna is next. Well, that's three, so she'd have to start the first.
Don't you start with that.
She'd have to start for the first.
Well, I mean, we've got three already, right? I mean, we have Prince and we have the old lady actress and China the wrestler. There's three right there.
Wait, I want to make sure I understand. Prince, China the wrestler, and
the Raymond's mother.
Yeah, no, I would put
mother who was 90.
Yeah, I would put Raymond's mom. I would put Raymond's mom and Prince in the same category, but China does not belong in that three, so we're still looking for another one.
Wait, so which three is China in? Another three? Even if she's in the middle?
No, they don't even count. That one was just sad.
If nobody else passes,
part of a big celebrity.
If nobody else passes away in a couple of days, then China counts.
Okay, got it. I think
it doesn't have to happen right away.
You just tried to loop in Michael Jackson and Whitney Houston. It's like a decade old. You tried to loop them in.
I didn't do that. I think Pat did that.
I didn't do that.
Jeffy did it. It's always Jeffy's fault.
This is the Glenn Beck Program. Mercury.
Tonight on The Wonderful World of Stu, the most important documentary of this century, maybe the millennia, will debut. You'll finally learn the sordid secrets behind nature's deadliest hot springs in the film Geysers.
Stop these terrible waterspouts of death!
You never know when that sneaky steam will attack. And Stu explains why Obamacare is the greatest failure of all time, while wearing a powder blue tuxedo, I might add, because he can. It's a free country. So don't miss the fun on a brand new episode of The Wonderful World of Stu. Tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern and on demand all weekend at theblaze.com/TV.
Okay, we're on here.
Sorry,
That's
what do you?
It's the Prince. I guess they were doing a Prince, Tom Petty, Steve Winwood.
That was the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay,
when he was inducted.
They did George Harrison's "While My Guitar Gently Weeps," and he did this.
And he is great.
Really good guitar solo.
Right, he is really good. He is
actually
an
better
unbelievable guitarist.
It's better than the one Clapton did in the song.
Huh.
I mean, this is the weird thing about Prince is that he's a very talented guy. Obviously, a great guitar player. But he's talented in areas that he doesn't actually show in his music. Like he's
talented.
Well,
what?
There's no.
He's just showing. He's just listening. Right, I said he was one of the greatest guitar. Oh no, he's not. Eric Clapton says he was the greatest guitarist that lived.
He was joking.
He doesn't.
No, he was not joking.
Typically speaking, the songs he's best known for, he doesn't utilize that skill. I mean, Kiss is not known for its guitar solo.
No, because he was pumping out the hits, and they were 3.5 minutes long. But if you went to his concert, they were riddled with guitar solos.
Van Halen was popular in the same area. We all know that. I
know. Prince wasn't doing that on his on his record.
That's my point. He wasn't doing.
But if you listen to
his great guitar player,
if you listen to his albums, they were 6 minutes long, and the guitar solo was in it.
Kiss?
I don't know about that one.
This was great.
This was great.
Diamonds and Pearls? I don't remember the guitar solo.
You know what? Let me tell you something. Stu. Let me tell you something.
Yes.
You're one of the best comedy writers in all of radio. Would you agree with me, Stu?
Yes, I would.
No, I mean, I'd be Pat. Would you agree with me?
Yes.
Would you agree with me, Jeffy?
Hey, I don't want to agree anything.
I know. One of the best. He sucked before I took him under my wing. He's one of the best comedy writers in all of radio. Now, if you drop dead tomorrow because your great body of work is this show, okay, people would say,
Holy crap.
I would say he was one of the best comedy writers, and people would go, Stu? He surely didn't utilize that in all of his work.
Wait a minute. We just ran a promo. Wonderful World of Stew.
Right.
Which on this
It's
network.
Nobody has watched.
What are you
That's
talking
not
about?
a number one hit now, is it?
No.
That's not your biggest hit.
Critical acclaim is what I'm going for there.
Yes. And so the snobs would all say, yeah, well, you missed his greatest work. It was Wonderful World of Stew. That was brilliant.
Okay, all right.
So, by the way, I did say best comedy writer in all of radio.
That's a good point. No, but I mean, this is a good analogy, right? You think that I'm good at something, which I think it's the first time you've ever mentioned it.
No, I've said that to you many times.
You have, of course. However,
no, I've said
when
that to almost every person. I mean this sincerely. Almost anybody who ever has a job opening, I am saying, have you looked at Stu? He is fantastic.
Again, this is just turning into an insult. What I'm saying is, if you believe that, which I can't at this point tell, I am not gonna. I'm gonna drop dead, and people are gonna be like, "Oh yeah, wasn't that the guy who did polls in 1 hour or something?" They're not gonna say I'm the greatest person who's ever walked the earth.
No,
they're gonna
but
say, "Oh, clear his body out, and so we can walk past."
But the fans will say, yes, he was the guy who did this poll.
I am really thinking my life right about now. Right now is the time.
You got till about 57.
Okay.
I would try to get it in before you're 55. You never know.
Okay, well.
You never know. By the way, we got something in because I mentioned these, I think, earlier this week, and you guys said, oh, that sounds horrible. Now, I can only vouch for the sea salt. These are what are these, dang onions? Something's called? Yeah, dang onion chips. And I've had the dang coconut chips, which are great. I don't eat potato chips. I know it's surprising with all of the weight, but I don't eat potato chips. I can only have certain foods, et cetera, et cetera. So this is a pure onion, and it is it's like a potato chip with sea salt on it. Try it.
I will.
Stu, it was you two fat heads over here that did like it.
So, and by the way, the name of the brand, you say dang onion chips, that you're not.
The name of them is D-A-N-G, dang.
I'm going to turn down free food, but I noticed that they're not deep fried.
Those are really good.
Is that awesome?
We'll eat those.
That is awesome. Where's yours, Pat? You won't eat it?
Yeah, they're right here.
You won't eat one?
I tried them. They're good.
You know why he tried them? Because we're going to taste test him on the air, and he always tries the food before we go on the air. That's the Pat Gray guarantee.
It is. It's a thing.
Why would you do that?
Because I want to eat.
Someone you set the food in front of you.
Try the barbecue.
I mean,
Chipotle lime is really good.
no, they're not bad.
Barbecue is great.
They're just onions, and I don't like onions. And they leave an onion sort of.
Oh, yeah, you do not want to be going out. You don't want to be. I mean, these are embarrassing for even like coming up next to your wife.
Barbecue is pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the breath thing is going to be.
The breath thing is going to be the killer on these.
Oh, well.
Yeah. It's good, though. It makes the onion
These
edible.
might have been financed by Lifesavers. If Lifesavers were smart, they would have invested in this company.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yes, right. And when you're done, those are delicious.
I am a big fan of these.
Are they really low in calories, or what's the
I don't
deal
know. I
with
know
them?
they're. Well, let's see here.
The coconut ones are not.
They're vegan, gluten-free, non-GMO, good source of fiber, 65% less sodium, whole onion slices, calories from fat. Okay, so there's 2 servings in this big thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And 150 calories.
Oh, wow.
300 calories for the whole bag? That's not bad.
Yeah, 300 for the whole bag. That's great.
When's the last time you went 5 minutes where you only ate 300 calories?
1920.
Didn't eat anything the first half hour of the show.
Let's be honest
Good
about
for you, Jeffy. You made it for the first 30 minutes of the show without eating. Good for you.
Thank you.
I'm so proud of you.
Yeah, those are good.
That is really great.
Now we do have big elections coming up next week, and we're going to get to that stuff, right? We're not going to just talk onion chips and Prince all day, are we?
Well, I'm still smarting a little bit from how we started this hour, where you guys said that he wasn't one of the greatest artists of our generation.
Clearly not. But, he was good. I mean, he was
Eric Clapton said he was one of the best. He was the greatest guitarist of.
It's a joke. I don't know.
It is not a joke.
He's being humble. The guy is incredibly humble.
Look, I'm not saying he's better than Eric Clapton, but he wasn't joking.
Clapton is humble.
And he's asking. Is
that what you just said?
What does it feel like to be the greatest guitarist on earth? I don't know. Ask Prince. Ask Prince. He'll tell you.
As he was on stage with Prince playing the guitar, that's what he's doing. Sickening.
I mean, come on. There's too many.
Okay, tell me the best performers.
Guitarists.
Tell me the best performers you've ever seen in our lifetime. Give me the list of the best performers.
You talking to
Michael Bublé. Michael Bublé, number one, best performer I've ever seen.
Somebody on a good show or somebody
music.
Musically talented.
Great, musically talented that does a great performance. Because I love his music, but his performance showed how great he really was.
Yeah.
So give me the best performers in our lifetime. Michael Bublé, Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Bublé.
I would say those two. Bublé before Jackson. No, did you ever seen Bublé?
No.
Oh, wow. I don't know if I can be friends with you. That is almost a Princess Bride hurdle. You don't like Michael Bublé, there's something wrong with you.
And Michael Bublé is
cool.
like
him.
Even if you don't like that type of music, it's a really fun show. I mean, he's just a great
he is
entertainer.
great.
It's almost like at times like you're watching like a Fallon.
I swear to you, I turn into like a 15-year-old girl around Michael Bublé.
You're a fangirl around him.
I may have blown him a kiss on stage at one time. I
know you threw your underwear up on stage. I know that happened.
He used them as a towel. So
that's a selling point for me. I'll tell you that.
No, but Bublé,
Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson.
Did you see anybody else see Michael Jackson? Pat did. I did.
Yeah, he was.
Oh my gosh. I saw him on the Victory Tour. The first time I saw Michael Jackson, Victory Tour. The outrage, remember this, Pat? The outrage was those tickets were $19 a piece.
I was thinking they were like 30-something, but
no, they were $19.
And it was really high at the time, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No. Nobody had ever broken 10. Nobody had ever broken $10. Everybody made their money on the album, so they just wanted you to pack it. And I remember looking at that $19 ticket, which you had to have a lottery to get. Remember, you had to.
Yes.
I don't remember how it worked, but you had to have a lottery to be able to buy the tickets.
Yes, that's right.
And then you got the lottery. You then had to get in quickly. I got floor seats, $19, and I remember looking at those and saying to my friends, this better be a damn good show for $19.
Think of that. When you pay $275, $300 a piece now, $400 sometimes.
Oh my gosh! I mean, how much you charge for Celine now? If I see that damn Celine thing before a movie again, I don't know if the rest of the country sees this, but you know how they run those commercials. It's the movie tracks. You've been watching movie tracks,
right? The Vegas thing.
Yeah, and they'll do this little thing. They've done it for months. Yep. This thing about Celine Dion in Vegas, and my daughter. We went to see The Jungle Book last week, and my oldest daughter, looked at me because she was all the way down at the end of the row, and I said, "Good God, how long do we have to put up with this Titanic song?" And I said it a little too loud. My daughter looked down and she's like, "Dad, shut up." And but I felt it, and I think there may have been some applause in the audience when I said it.
I would not doubt that.
I bet that ticket is $500.
Look at the difference in the way just that industry has changed. I mean, it was all about album sales, and they didn't care about the concert. Exact reverse now. All these big artists are going to Vegas for residencies.
It's because it's the only way you can make money.
It's the only way they can make money. They're touring now, and that's where they make all their money, and they don't make any money off the albums anymore.
Mm-hmm. Give the CDs away. Give the music away. Just give it away and charge them. That's best performer you've ever seen on stage. Prince, by the way, I think is number 3 for me.
I mean, Bublé is great. I like him. U2 in their prime was amazing, and I still love U2. So I mean, I would put them in that category. Their shows were.
Is that like I saw the Rolling Stones? I saw the Steel Wheels tour. Was it called Steel Wheels?
Yeah, the
Steel Wheels tour, and I think that was for their wheelchairs. I'm not sure, but but the Steel Wheels tour, and I remember thinking that was a spectacle. I've seen Paul McCartney, and that was a spectacle.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't mean spectacles.
Yeah.
I mean best performers. Billy Joel at his prime. Best performer. Really outrageously great. Now he'll piss you off.
Oh, I saw him at Fenway last summer.
Yeah.
And he was awesome. The show was
really
so good.
Pat and I saw him.
We saw him here.
We saw him at the American Airlines at an arena.
Yeah.
It was sold out.
Was it last fall?
We went, and we left halfway through.
Yeah.
We walked out halfway through, and we're both huge Billy Joel fans. I've seen Billy Joel 3 or 4 times. Don't ever meet him. He will destroy everything that you've ever thought of him. It was B.B. King. It was B.B. King. And right after that, I went to meet Billy Joel, and both of them were such jerks. I was like, I won't meet a celebrity anymore. I don't want to meet anybody I like anymore.
Yeah.
Anyway, now this. The founders originally wrote these words, life, liberty, and the pursuit of property. Property is fundamental to the Constitution and the idea of America, that you can find your own way, pursue your happiness, make money, buy property, buy whatever you want, make whatever you want, and no one can ever take it from you. That's no longer the case. Obama and Loretta Lynch, the federal government, now can take your property without even charging you with a crime. It is outrageous how we have taken the Constitution and just thrown it out. You want to stop it. You want to stand. If this is your cause, if this is something that you say, I've got to stand for at least the first 10 amendments. Man, can we stand for all of them? But let's try to get the first 10 in. If that's you, FreedomWorks needs your help. They need you to sign their petition right now. What they're doing, honestly, is gathering the names of the people that want to stand and help them with this cause. FreedomWorksForMe.com. Sign their petition. Sign up now to be a warrior to stop the government from just seizing your property, not giving you any excuse, not charging you with a crime, just taking it and selling it. It's not only happening with the federal government, it can happen in your own local community as well, and it's got to stop. Go to freedomworksforme.com. That's freedomworksforme.com.
The Glenn Beck Program.
Mercury.
This is the Glenn Beck Program.
Reports.
All right.
There are reports that Eric Clapton was once asked.
And those reports are true.
Nobody says who asked him. It's not like Rolling Stone once asked Eric Clapton. No, none of that. There are reports that he was once asked.
We'll say your lead fact in this case is of questionable origin.
My lead fact is that was to push back on Pat. My lead fact is he was an awesome guitarist.
Well, your lead fact is you loved him so much you walked out of his concert.
Shut up.
But your second one is
I want to hang on. I want to go here. Bill O'Reilly said the 2 biggest stories in his lifetime.
Yeah. Prince.
The death of Kennedy and
The death of Prince.
the surprise, the rocket ship
Oh, my gosh.
that is Donald Trump. He said those are the 2 biggest news stories of his lifetime.
Wow.
Now, I want you to hear how he said it and what he said it, because you'll disagree with it even more.
Wow.
Yeah. And I would just like you to, I just want you to think here. What are the 2 biggest stories in your lifetime? Coming up next hour, we have we're celebrating Earth Day, and I've already got my party hat made out of a giant redwood that I'm wearing, and also a really amazing interview coming up.
The Glenn Beck Program.
Mercury.
We want to start this happy, happy day by wishing you a howdy and a hello from the great state of Texas, where we are celebrating Earth Day like nobody else. Woo! Right? Woo! I mean, Texans are celebrating it right here on Earth. That's how much we love Earth Day. We are going to have our final episode now in our 4-part series exploring the environmental movement in America. Been a little bone-chilling to see how much these activists love the earth and hate humans. Today, we're going to revisit some of the top environmentalist predictions from the past and see how they turned out. We begin there right now.
I will make a stand. I will raise my voice. I will hold your hand. 'Cause we are one. I will beat my drum. I have made my choice. We will overcome. 'Cause we are one.
The fusion of entertainment and enlightenment. This is the Glenn Beck Program.
The impending ice age that was foreshadowed by scientists, politicians, and hippies alike on the first Earth Day in 1970 never actually came to fruition. If you haven't noticed, our planet is not completely frozen over, and we don't currently live in igloos. But the failed predictions made about global cooling in the 1970s have conveniently been swept under the rug to make way for a slightly different issue that also requires immediate and collective action: global warming. In the late 1980s, environmental activists started to wield the power of apocalyptic rhetoric to scare the public into fearing global warming and its disastrous consequences. The most ardent warrior pushing global warming was NASA scientist Dr. James Hansen. June 23, 1988, Hansen testified before Congress, stating that he was 99% certain that the year's record temperatures were not natural. It was the first time a scientist claimed that there was a connection between human activity and the warming of the planet. Hansen confidently warned reporters after the hearing, quote, "It's time to stop waffling so much and say that the evidence is pretty strong that the greenhouse effect is here," end quote. James Hansen made many predictions in the late 80s about what would happen to the Earth if we didn't make an effort to stop global warming right then. He relayed some of the scariest predictions to reporter Bob Rice about what would happen specifically to New York City. Quote, "If what you're saying about the greenhouse effect is true, is anything going to look different down there in 20 years? He looked down for a while and was quiet and didn't say anything for a couple of seconds. And then he said, "Well, there will be more traffic." I, of course, didn't think he heard the question right. Then he explained, "The West Side Highway, which runs along the Hudson River, will be underwater, and there will be tape across the windows across the street because of high winds, and the same birds won't be there. The trees in the median strip will change." Then he said, "There will also be more police cars." "Why?" I asked. "Well, you know what happens to crime when the heat goes up." End quote. Hansen also predicted in the late 1980s that New York would experience droughts so bad in the next 20 or 30 years that there would be signs in restaurants saying, "Water by request only." The only glitch was that the 1990s turned out to be the most drought-free decade in U.S. history. It goes without saying, but maybe we need to say it. None of these predictions have come to pass. Despite Hansen's failed prophecies, he is revered by the scientific community to this day. And he continues his stale warning.
We have got to a very dangerous point. We're close to pushing the climate system beyond tipping points, where the dynamics of the system can take over and become out of our control.
Most recently, he released a paper arguing that a warming of
2 degrees is actually a prescription for disaster. That's actually well understood by the scientific community.
Hansen predicts that just 2 degrees would eventually lead to a sea level rise of several meters, which would mean a loss of almost all coastal cities. But let's remember what he said about the West Side Highway before putting stock into anything James Hansen predicts. If we took Hansen at his word, our world would be a terrifying place. His war against fossil fuels in an attempt to halt global warming would have disastrous effects on humanity.
This is really a total fraud. You know, we're not going to reduce emissions as long as we let fossil fuels be the cheapest form of energy. There are lots of countries that want to lift their people out of poverty, and of course they should do that. But everybody would be better off if the price of fossil fuels was honest. It should include its cost to society.
Hansen obviously understands how integral fossil fuels have been to lifting the world out of poverty. But he would quickly trade improved human living conditions if we could only get rid of coal. Hansen isn't the only person who has made his career based on environmental fear-mongering. Al Gore has done it for years and is quite skilled at scaring people into action against global warming.
Our ability to live is what is at stake.
A decade ago, Gore declared that unless drastic measures to reduce greenhouse gases are taken, the world would reach a point of no return, and that it is America's responsibility to do something about it.
America is the natural leader of the world, and our world faces a true planetary emergency. I know the phrase sounds shrill, and I know it's a challenge to the moral imagination to see and feel and understand that the entire relationship between humanity and our planet has been radically altered.
Well, over 10 years have now passed. Have we reached planetary emergency levels? No? Well, surely Al Gore's other prediction that the Arctic may be ice-free by now has come true.
Some of the models suggest to Dr. Maslowski that there is a 75% chance that the entire North Polar ice cap during some of the summer months could be completely ice-free within the next 5 to 7 years.
Satellite photos of the Arctic taken by NASA in August 2013 actually show a 60% increase in the polar ice sheet, more than half the size of Europe, proving Gore was wrong, as well as John Kerry.
In 5 years, scientists predict we will have the first ice-free Arctic summer. That exposes more ocean to sunlight. Ocean is dark. It consumes more of the heat from the sunlight, which then accelerates the rate of the melting and warming rather than the ice sheet and the snow that used to reflect it back up into the atmosphere.
Politicians seem to be experts when it comes to using environmental scare tactics to their advantage. Take President Obama's second-term inaugural address, for example.
We will respond to the threat of climate change, knowing that the failure to do so would betray our children and future generations. Some may still deny the overwhelming judgment of science, but none can avoid the devastating impact of raging fires and crippling drought and more powerful storms.
Images of raging fires, crippling droughts, and powerful storms could terrify anyone if his statement were true. But in reality, the number of wildfires has plummeted 15% since 1950. And according to the National Academy of Sciences, that trend is likely to continue. There has been little change in global drought over the past 60 years, and hurricanes and tornadoes have hit record low numbers. Despite science and reason, President Obama continued to escalate the global warming agenda, declaring,
climate change is a primary national security threat that we're going to face. And we are working with the Department of Defense to start preparing for that and mitigating for that. And a lot of our international policy and national security policy is centered around the very real concerns that that's going to raise. But we also know that it's going to have an impact on our public health.
a national security threat and a risk to public health? It gets even scarier. The latest prediction that was peddled by the Obama administration's John Holdren is that thousands of deaths will occur due to heat waves.
The report projects that under middle-of-the-road emissions scenarios, we could see from thousands to tens of thousands additional heat-related deaths in the United States each summer.
And just to bring it full circle, the EPA's Gina McCarthy is bringing back James Hansen's failed prediction that drinking water will be unavailable very soon.
You're looking at challenges that are related to more intense floods and droughts. So you're looking at whether or not we can deliver clean drinking water and whether there is drinking water to drink that's available. We're seeing those challenges today. It means in a changing climate, they are going to be more severe as we move along.
If we may make a prediction for this Earth Day, it would be this. Apocalyptic predictions about the environment are here to stay. It's up to that vermin, or what we would call humans, to decide whether they believe them or not.
Glenn Beck.
Ever heard this? Hey, do business with us. We have great customer service. And then when you need help, you can't get them on the phone. When it comes to hiring the right people for your business, you need a recruiting company that cares more about you than they do about themselves. And that is what ZipRecruiter is. This is right from their website. We guarantee satisfaction, period. We treat people the way they want to be treated. Quality is embedded into our DNA. We take great joy in delivering the best product and creating the best relationships possible. And you can hold them to that promise. We use ZipRecruiter. And with ZipRecruiter, when you're looking for somebody to hire, you want to find the best person. You can spend the time and post to, 100-plus job sites one after another. Or you can use ZipRecruiter, and with a single click, post that job posting to over 100 job sites. And you'll be instantly matched to candidates from over 6 million resumes. And within 24 hours, you see the brand new candidates that are answering your ad roll into ZipRecruiter's easy-to-use interface. It's been used by over 400,000 businesses, and I own 2 of them. ZipRecruiter. Try it free today. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/Beck. That's ZipRecruiter.com/Beck. Go there now, ZipRecruiter.com/Beck.
You're listening
You're listening
to the Glenn Beck Program.
The Glenn Beck Program.
Mercury.
The Glenn Beck Program.
Whew. Well, I don't think we can come out of that without going to the poet laureate of climate change, the one and only Mr. Al Gore from the CBS Morning Show with Harry Smith.
One thin September soon, a floating continent disappears in midnight sun. Vapors rise as fever settles on an acid sea. Neptune's bones dissolve. Snow glides from the mountain. Ice fathers floods for a season. Hard rain comes quickly. Then dirt is parched. Kindling is placed in the forest for the lightning celebration. Unknown creatures take their leave unmourned. Horsemen ready their stirrups. Passion seeks heroes and friends. The bell of the city on the hill is rung. The shepherd cries. The hour of choosing has arrived. Here are your tools.
I'm a tool. I'm so glad you read that. I'm very happy.
Thanks for asking me.
That was beautiful. Wow, that was.
Shockingly, I am also glad he read it, because now we have that.
We have that, and that has provided us hours of laughter over the years.
It really has. That's some amazing stuff in there. I mean, James Hansen is one of my favorites because, first of all, the story of him looking down from the office where he was in New York that was described in the serial. It's actually directly above the Seinfeld restaurant, if you remember the Seinfeld restaurant. And he looks down and he's, what's it going to look like in 20 years? He's like, the West Side Highway is going to be underwater. Those birds won't be here anymore. Of course, those birds probably did actually die.
Yes, they probably did.
Not
yes.
that.
There will be more. There will be more cops.
There will be restaurants, because of all the droughts, restaurants will be water by request only. There will be signs up everywhere. Of course, I actually went to that area and walked around and looked at every single one of his predictions to see if any of them came true. None of them came true. And this is on the heels of his big global warming testimony in 1989, where he actually, and a lot of times now, though, they won't give you specifics. He outlined 3 specific scenarios about what would happen to the climate in the future. 1, if we really got smart and listened to him and got rid of all of our emissions. 2, if we kept going on the current path. And 3, if we just didn't stop at all, we didn't care at all, we had huge increases in emissions. And he gave the prediction of what the temperature would do. Now, what happened with emissions was actually worse than his worst case scenario. So his worst case scenarios, we emitted way more carbon than even that scenario. It was way worse. We had way more economic expansion than he predicted. We had far more in the undeveloped world coming online and actually becoming civilized. Huge amounts of power, huge amounts of emissions. It was worse than his worst scenario as far as quote-unquote pollution goes. What did the temperature do? The temperature was lowest than his lowest prediction. It actually was lower than the prediction he made if we actually listened to him and cut emissions. And so if he was right, it should have been higher than his highest prediction. Instead, it was lower than his lowest. That's how wrong he was. And this is the situation that they look back at and say, wow, this guy was a groundbreaker. It's why he's still in the public sphere today, because of this testimony in which he was completely wrong.
All of that may be true, Stu, but fever hath settled on an acid sea, and Neptune's bones have to though.
Let me ask you this: has the bell rung or has it gone unrung?
The bell of the city,
yes,
has been rung.
It has been rung.
It's been rung.
Where are our tools?
And the shepherd hath cried.
Wait, but our
what about the horse? Are they ready with the stirrups?
No, they actually got their foot stuck in the stirrups and fell off the horse.
Oh, no. Oh, wait a minute. Hang on just a second.
Yeah,
the shepherds or the horse? Are the horses riding other horses?
No, the shepherds were riding the horses.
Why would the shepherds be riding the horses?
Because they
usually
were trying to round up the sheep with their horses. And they got their feet cut because they're not used to riding the horses. And they fell, and the horse.
Could you please check that? Because I believe the horses are riding horses. Horses readied their stirrups.
Horsemen.
Oh, horsemen readied their stirrups.
Horsemen readied their.
Why will you not answer where our tools are?
Here are our tools.
Okay.
I am a tool.
Hey, by the way, speaking of wrong predictions, didn't you guys say that Al Gore was going to be running by this time?
Well, we said if there was an implosion of Hillary, which didn't pan out, that the next logical guy, the only guy, would have been Al Gore. And I think Al Gore would have actually done better.
There is still time.
I think Gore would have done better. I think Gore would have beat.
He might be readying his stirrups.
He might.
Where are our tools, though?
Will he take his leave unmourned, as unknown creatures have? I don't know.
Who's going to mourn a creature they don't know about? Why would you do that? Of course you don't do that. That would be stupid.
I want to. I'm really excited. You know who Christopher Hitchens is, right?
Oh yeah.
Hey, who was he?
He was
an atheist,
right?
Famous,
huge,
atheist,
famous atheist.
A liberal who supported the Iraq War.
There is an amazing new book out called "The Faith of Christopher Hitchens: The Restless Soul of the World's Most Notorious Atheist." Fascinating. This guy went and met with him and spoke to him about, his childhood and his life and his restless soul. And it is a fascinating, fascinating read. The author is going to be on with us here in just a second. My favorite quote from the book is, Socialism is atheism masquerading as political philosophy. How true that is as we are seeing it now. Mm-hmm. Socialism is atheism masquerading as political philosophy. The name of the book is The Faith of Christopher Hitchens. That's coming up in a second. Also, Bill O'Reilly said the most shocking political event of his lifetime was the death of JFK and one other thing. It makes my head explode. We'll talk about that coming up.
You're listening to the Glenn Beck Program. Mercury.
This is
the Glenn Beck Program.
You know, I have a great respect for people who are, for instance, Antonin Scalia and Ruth Bader Ginsburg. People who are at polar opposites but can find friendship with one another, and they have real discussions. They don't avoid it. We just don't talk about that. No, they delve into it. Penn Jillette and I are very good friends. Most people would say that doesn't make any sense. But we really like each other and have profound respect for one another. When you think of Christopher Hitchens, you think of one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse for atheism. But Larry Taunton was a friend of Christopher Hitchens in the last 4 years of his life, and so sat down and really got to know him and really became good friends with him. Now, Larry is very Christian. But you learn some things about Christopher Hitchens in this new book called The Faith of Christopher Hitchens that everybody should read. This is one of those books, especially if you have friends who are non-believers or if you know of Christopher Hitchens, this will open your eyes. I can't wait to read this, finish reading this, and then talk to Penn Jillette about it. Larry Taunton is with us now. Larry, how did you meet Christopher Hitchens?
Yes, Glenn, I met him at the Edinburgh International Festival in Scotland, and I was there organizing a debate, and I was sure that Christopher would hate me, and I was pretty sure that I wasn't going to like him, but much to my surprise, we hit it off.
Penn Jillette talked to me a lot about Christopher Hitchens and said, Glenn, you two would get along. He would tell me all the time, you'd need to talk to Christopher Hitchens. You would love him. He would love you. You'd get along. And I could never imagine it. But Penn was good friends.
Well, knowing what little I do of Penn Jillette, I think I would like Jillette. In fact, I quote him quite favorably in this book,
I know you do.
Glenn.
I know. He's an amazing guy. In fact, on page 179, I'm sure you have it right there, you quote Jillette saying that somebody gave him a copy of the New Testament, and he said, I don't respect people who don't tell me about the salvation of Jesus Christ. Penn has said almost that very thing to me. I haven't said that to him because I know where he stands, and I know he's not honestly seeking at this time. And so I'm just his friend. And he said to me at one point, he said, I'm really actually kind of surprised you never have. And I wouldn't be mad at you if you did that. I'm surprised you didn't. If you believe, as you wrote in the book, if you believe that there is salvation and I'm going to hell because I'm an atheist, I would think that you would have to do that. You should do that.
That's very convicting.
It is.
Yeah. In the case of Christopher Hitchens, it's interesting, Glenn. I challenged him to a Bible study some years ago, and Christopher, who liked to challenge, took me up on that. And then the years began to roll by, and whenever I would see him or talk to him, I would say, hey, Christopher, you remember that challenge? Yes, I will not yield my banner to you. And eventually we did. We drove from his home in D.C. to mine in Birmingham, Alabama, where along the way, as we're driving through the Shenandoah Valley, we're studying the Gospel of John together. And you have to picture this. Here I am, the Southern evangelical, driving, and Christopher is in the passenger seat with a Johnny Walker Black Label Scotch squeezed between his knees, his reading glasses perched on the end of his nose, and he's reading aloud from the Gospel of John. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. I don't know how many Bible studies you've attended where they offer Scotch along with the coffee and
Not
donuts,
a lot.
but this
No,
was
not
my
a lot.
first.
Yeah. Tell me, let's go to this quote. Socialism is atheism masquerading as political philosophy.
Yes, I talk a little bit about socialism because in this book, The Faith of Christopher Hitchens, Christopher declared himself an atheist in 1964, burned his Bible, and he became a communist. And so I talk a little bit about communism. Well, what is the link between atheism and communism? Well, socialism, as I say, is much more than an economic or a political question. It's a spiritual question, if only, Glenn, because it denies the very existence of the spiritual. So, to put it this way, in the biblical worldview, the state is a temporal institution that is meant to serve man, an eternal being. But you see, in the socialist model, this is reversed. Man is a temporal being who serves the eternal state, and this is something that I find very unsettling about socialism. But this explains a lot of the attraction to socialism among atheists.
But he was really an odd guy, anti-war, but for the invasion of Iraq. He was, I don't know if anybody knows this, tell a story about him being pro-life. Did you know that Christopher Hitchens was pro-life?
Yes, Christopher was a man of great complexity, and that's what I get at in this book. When I speak of the faith of Christopher Hitchens, we all, Glenn, as you know, it's always asserted, it's always alleged that it's only religious people who have faith. Well, no. Everybody's gambling on something. Now, it might be Bernie Sanders, it might be Donald Trump, it might be their 401k, or it might be God. But everybody's putting their faith in something. And Christopher was a guy of some internal contradictions. On the one hand, for instance, the very first time I met him, I asked him if he thought the bioethicist, the philosopher Peter Singer, who has said that mothers should get 28 days with newborn children to determine whether or not to keep them or euthanize them, was consistent as an atheist, and he said that he was. But I asked Christopher if he agreed with that, and he hedged. He kind of indicated that he didn't. And I thought this was interesting. Here's a guy who, wasn't prepared to go that far with his atheism, because there was a real humanity to Christopher Hitchens. And he says of his mother's abortions that she had an abortion both before he was born and afterwards, and he found that very unsettling. And Christopher revealed later in life that he was pro-life.
I didn't meet Christopher Hitchens, obviously, but I do know Penn Jillette, who was very close to him. And I have in some ways more respect for Penn Jillette than many of the Christians that I know, because Penn Jillette knows the Bible. He's read the Bible. He has really searched in his life, and he lives the principles of Jesus, with an exception of a couple of, believing in his name and baptism and the resurrection, kind of some of the big stuff. But he lives the principles of Jesus. And I find him intriguing because he is more open-minded than many of the people who believe in any faith. He, at least Penn, was really open, knew what he knew, but was very open to other people challenging in a nice way, and other people having different opinions, and open to listening to somebody else's opinion. Did you find that with Christopher?
Yes, I've never met Penn Jillette, who is obviously a massively talented illusionist and somebody I've always wanted to meet. And my sense of him is what you say. And Christopher was very much like that, meaning how is it that the two of us were able to have any kind of relationship? Well, Christopher liked lively discussion. He was bored with small talk. Christopher Hitchens was a man who liked to talk about things that actually mattered, and it just so happens I do too. And so it's kind of interesting that here he is, a man who, at least in part, made his living as an atheist, and I, as a Christian, who make my living as a Christian insofar as I'm a guy whose job it is to defend the faith, and in some way that the two of us could be friends. And it was because those big questions mattered. And I think the point really that I think we're both making here is there's a vast middle ground of people who just don't think about these things at all, and those people are of less interest to me.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why, boy, I'd be really frank here, one of the reasons why I'm so uncomfortable around in crowds or at parties or things like that. I hate them. They're torture sessions because honestly, people don't want to talk about heavy topics. They don't want to talk about and think out of the box and think of the big thoughts because it's too scary for them. And it's fascinating because, we'll talk, we'll be in a group of people, and we'll talk, and there'll usually be a couple of people there that want to do it, but somebody else will speak for the whole crowd and say, hey, it's a party. Let's not talk about this. You know what I mean?
Well, yes,
and
I do,
and I know
Glenn.
it's and I understand it's a party, but it's very hard to find people that actually want to have a discussion about big, heavy thoughts.
Well, of course. I mean, listen, what you always hear, at least what I always hear is, hey, let's not discuss religion, politics, or sports. And for me, I kind of think, well, what's left? I mean, is there anything left that I do want to talk about?
Right. So what did you walk away with? Well, first of all, tell the story about why he burned his Bible. Why did he become an atheist?
That's a difficult question to answer. I mean, Christopher himself says that he did because he had decided by the age of 10 that Christianity was totalitarian in nature. But, Glenn, I find that in my engagement with many of the so-called new atheists, whether it's Richard Dawkins or Daniel Dennett or some of the other guys, that they often describe a God that sounds to me more like Allah. In other words, they describe a God who is vengeful, a God who is within whom there is no grace. And it always seems to me that that's what they never get about the Christian faith is grace. Rather, they see it in terms of law. They see it in terms of oppression. They think of it in terms of things that they cannot do. Aldous Huxley, the famous atheist of the first half of the previous century, very famously said that he chose to become an atheist because it liberated him to do precisely as he wanted to do, both sexually and politically. I think that in some measure these things probably apply to Christopher.
It's interesting because that's in some ways that is the way I used to think of religion, that it was very, very confining. But once you really, truly understand faith and you understand God, it is the exact opposite. It is the most free that you will ever be because everything just works in your head all of a sudden. Everything just falls into place. And you realize that if you're playing within this framework, how much space there is in that framework and how many opportunities come your way because you're not sending you're not boxing yourself in. You know what I mean? By being in that God box, you're not in a box. It's weird.
Well, yeah, I totally agree with you. And this to some extent, Christians, I think, have to take ownership of this, that we're not doing a very good job of articulating who we are and what we believe. I always wanted to make clear to Christopher that I didn't think I was better than him in any way, shape, or form. I didn't see myself as a better person. I didn't see myself as above him in any way. As a Christian, rather, I saw myself as someone who has fallen, someone who is sinful, someone who has feet of clay, and because of that, I needed the grace of God. If I was to have any hope of salvation, it was going to have to be via some divine measure, because I knew that I can't even stop biting my fingernails. So I knew it wasn't going to happen by any efforts of my own.
When his mom killed herself, and then you talk about his dad being a weak man in Christopher's eyes and played a big role in the rebellion against society. What? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yes, Christopher was much enamored, by his own words, he was much enamored with his mother, Yvonne. This was a woman of some vivacious personality and a woman of energy, and he was much impressed with her flair, rather than the boring, dutiful commander, as he called his father, a commander in the Royal Navy. And Christopher spoke of him in very condescending terms, and one wonders, if Christopher might not have been better off to perhaps have admired his dutiful, steady father rather than his mother, who just as you've noted, ended up committing suicide.
The name of the book is The Faith of Christopher Hitchens. The Faith of Christopher Hitchens, now on my nightstand and in bookstores everywhere. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Larry.
And thank you for having me, Glenn.
You bet. Now this, China is right now preparing for the inevitable decay of the current international monetary system. That is phenomenal to say. The government has developed the Chinese domestic gold market, and they've stimulated private gold accumulation and increased its official gold reserves. And what are they doing? They know that right now the gold reserve, if you will, around the world, the gold standard is the U.S. dollar. So we did that because there's not enough gold to have in everybody's gold reserve. So we just printed money, and they kept that in their banks. Now China is saying, we got to get out of that. We got to put gold in our banks instead. Have you done this? Have you considered it? Have you done your homework? Call 1-866-GOLD-LINE, 1-866-465-3546, 866-GOLD-LINE or goldline.com.
You're listening to the Glenn Beck Program.
The Glenn Beck Program.
Mercury.
This book really shows
727 Beck.
This The Faith of Christopher Hitchens really shows Christopher Hitchens in a completely different light.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting concept he's talking about, because you're right, at parties we don't talk about these really serious issues.
I don't mean that,
No, but I mean, get-togethers, we tend to go to the easy place, the easy conversations to have.
Not interested.
You might not be interested, but at times it can be torturous. I think at some level, and Christopher Hitchens was generally a happy warrior for his causes, I think, but I think he's tortured as well. Like when you're in the middle of those battles all the time. The way he enjoyed life was scotch. Right. I mean, that's how he felt.
I enjoyed life for a while was bourbon.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. There's definitely a place. That's what I mean, and I get enough of it on this show. This is what we do all day.
Yeah, I feel like we do surface stuff. I hunger for the deeper conversations.
We're doing hour-long specials on Woodrow Wilson.
I know. And that's why I have no friends. So
there's a lot of reasons you don't have any friends, actually. There's a lot. Maybe about a dozen right now. Let me start. Number one.
Glenn Beck.
Mercury.
Let's play a little game. Out of the 5 candidates that are still running for president, how many of them want to raise your taxes? Out of the 3 that are Republican, how many want to raise your taxes? We'll play that little game here in just a second. Also, Ted Cruz has some comments about gender-neutral bathrooms, an update from yesterday's broadcast. We want to talk to you about Bill O'Reilly. He says 2 biggest stories in his lifetime. One of them has just happened. I think he's wrong on that, and I love Bill O'Reilly, but I think he's wildly wrong on this one. And Election by the Numbers begins right now.
I will make a stand. I will raise my voice. I will hold your hand. 'Cause we have won. I will beat my drum. I have made my choice. We will overcome. 'Cause we are
The fusion of entertainment and enlightenment. This is the Glenn Beck Program.
The Glenn Beck Program, 2016. Election by Numbers.
Stu is here.
I am.
Election by the Numbers.
So Bernie Sanders is still trying to raise money, despite the fact that his campaign really has very little chance. But one of the things his supporters are doing is saying kind of similar arguments to what Donald Trump's supporters are saying. It's being stolen from us. The will of the people is going down the tubes. No one cares. Just to give you a bit of perspective, because this has been presented as a close race for a long time. Hillary Clinton has received 10.4 million votes. Bernie Sanders has received 7.7 million. The percentage is 57 to 43. She's leading by 14 points. This is it's not that close. He's won a decent amount of states because he's done well in small caucus states. But I mean, she's blowing him away. It's not as big of a lead as you'd expect from Hillary Clinton.
They're calling that one close, but they're not calling it close between Trump and Cruz. What's the percentage between those two? Do you know?
Much closer. It is, and the margin is considerably closer as well. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I can get it to you here before the next break. But we want to look forward to the Republican nomination. What has to happen here? Donald Trump, how does he win the nomination outright? Can he get to 1237? His staff is now saying they think they're going to get to 1,400 before the convention.
Wow.
So there you go.
Wow.
Sean Hannity last night, actually, on Fox News, said something that kind of hinted to that effect as well. He was asked what happens in a contested convention. Can Donald Trump win a second ballot? And he said something to the effect of, I don't think that's going to happen because there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes that people don't know about yet. So, I mean, I don't know if that means that maybe...
What the hell does that mean?
I don't know. I mean, he kind of left it open. Maybe it means that Trump's operation has improved quite a bit.
That's a good possibility.
Maybe he's talking to establishment people and getting them on his side. I don't know. Maybe it was nothing...
Do share with us.
I'm interested.
Sean,
maybe he's going to talk about it.
The rigged system was screwing him earlier?
I don't know. There's something happening behind the scenes. Well, we'd like to know what it is.
Definitely. So how does Trump get to the nomination outright? The New York Times went through the numbers. He has to pick up 185 delegates in the industrial East. Now, that includes, New Jersey. It includes Connecticut. It includes Rhode Island. Now, I ran my own sort of guesses here, my own predictions based on polls and such, and came out with him winning 182. So he's on pace there. He has to get 34 in the West and Midwest, which I had him getting 24, slightly below that. He had to win 130 in California. That's going to be tough.
That's really tough.
I had him at 110 there, which is still him winning the state, by the way. And then what does he do left? What does he have to do with the remaining? Probably has to win Indiana. And if you kind of go through the numbers...
Where does Indiana stand right now?
We don't know. One of the big issues with Indiana is that robocalls are illegal.
That's right.
In the state. So most of the pollsters can't poll Indiana. So we don't really know. Demographically, it's very close to Missouri, which was a very tight state.
Every state in this election, every state has mattered. Every one.
That's one
positive. It's a great thing, but never in my lifetime that I remember every single state mattering.
Yeah, it's always over by now.
I mean, I think Indiana, it could possibly be over in Indiana if it's a blowout for Trump.
Yes.
But if it's a blowout the other way, like it was in Wisconsin, then Trump is in trouble.
Listen to how important Indiana is. If you divvy up the states by expected results, Trump wins big in some of the eastern states. Cruz does well in the western states. They have proportional breakups in some of the others. That puts him about 175 delegates short, with 2 states remaining, California and Indiana. if he were to lose Indiana, he would basically have to sweep California, which would be very difficult. I mean, because the way California works, it's not easy to just sweep and win all the delegates there.
Right.
You have to win each individual district, and some districts are not friendly to Trump there. Now, so he really needs to do well in Indiana, because if he were to get, 20 delegates in Indiana, say, he'd have to win 155 in California, which is almost every single delegate. So Indiana is going to be incredibly crucial. This next week, again, has a bunch of states that favor Trump pretty strongly.
Yeah, the only thing you have to worry about is if people in Indiana start getting played by, oh, it looks like this is over. Looks like this is over. And you know what? Everybody, the whole sweep is going because momentum matters.
And it will feel that way.
And that's what happened. But Donald Trump broke Cruz's momentum with New York.
Yep.
And the New York media went right along with it. And so these 2 weeks, we told you, but Indiana matters. And boy, I tell you, if you want to volunteer, I don't care who you're volunteering for. I don't care who you want to give to, be it Donald Trump, John Kasich, or Ted Cruz, honestly. Now is the time.
TedCruz.org.
TedCruz.org.
I think you get to all three campaigns from TedCruz.org, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, you can.
I'm just saying, hang on, let me make this point. I'm just saying that our country is at stake, and it may come down to Indiana.
Right.
It's getting very, very close. I'm going out on the road next week on my time. I'm going to I may be gone for 3 weeks because...
Oh, no.
I know.
Oh, gosh darn.
I'm going to still be on the air with you. But I'm going to Indiana, I think, next week, and then I hope to be going to Oregon and Washington and California.
Or TedCruz.org?
No, for Ted Cruz.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Which is it's the same as TedCruz.org.
Yeah.
I think what you're saying is no matter what candidate you support, you should support Ted Cruz.
TedCruz.org.
Something like that. Seriously, this is it. This is really it.
Really is.
And
really is. I mean, Ted could surprise some in Pennsylvania. And he could surprise some more in Maryland.
He could.
Possible.
I don't think so, but he could.
Yeah, I do.
And I will say,
I think Pennsylvania's
Why are
got
you
a
being
shot.
such a downer with Pennsylvania and Maryland?
I'm trying to write them off and have zero expectations because he's written those. I mean, he hasn't written those off, but I've seen the math. And they would love to have Maryland and Pennsylvania. They'd love to have some delegates there, but they are not.
A lot of delegates in Pennsylvania.
Yes, he's got 50 already pledged to him in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, so if they hold to that pledge.
It's huge.
big news because there's only, wait a minute, there's only 54.
There's 57, I think.
There's 71, I think, total delegates. 17 are by the election. That happens.
I think he has 50 pledged.
Of 54?
I think he has 50.
You're not breaking news here. You're just you're off the top of your head trying to remember something you heard, right? Is that kind of what
I'm going to give you that.
Okay, that's okay. Well, all right, but it's interesting anyway. They think they have a good operation, is what you're saying, basically. So Ted Cruz
he's got 95 in.
Oh, come on. Really?
Yeah,
not even that many delegates. That's an incredible showing.
They brought in extra delegates just for Ted because the state is so in favor of him. They love him in Connecticut. I don't know what. It's weird.
Yeah, wow, that is weird. That's very weird.
Yeah, because Connecticut's going to be just like New York.
Oh, it's a bloodbath. It's going to be a bloodbath. Bloodbath. You just, if you're a Trump or Cruz supporter, don't have the wind taken out of your sails.
Right.
We have expected this from the beginning.
I wasn't really bothered by New York because I knew he was going to, get.
Right. No, I felt like, there's always hope, and you're like, oh, I hope he but you didn't expect it, and you feel like you get kicked in the gut.
I was just hoping he'd be like 80, 70, but no. He went.
He did. Trump did great. Cruz did poorly there. That's what we expected.
Yes.
I'd love to see, I'd love to have snow on Christmas Eve, but don't count on it, kids.
Wasn't there some hope in Maryland, though, or someplace, too?
There was a couple, there was a decent poll in Maryland. That does not seem to be holding, really. Right now, the latest Maryland poll, let's see if
it's not going, because it's not his territory.
Well, I know that, but for a while he was doing well there. Why would that go away all of a sudden?
Because people are fickle.
Yeah.
Because people are fickle.
Yeah. And
that's the only thing that you really have to worry about. And that's why I'm saying you can make calls for your candidate. You can go and if you live anywhere in the area, you can go and you can volunteer your time. You can go door to door. You can donate money. They need
TedCruz.org.
They need money.
You could do that.
But now is the time to get involved in
Sure is.
Indiana. It
Sure
really
is.
is. Indiana and California. We need you.
Well, and it wouldn't hurt in Oregon, Montana, just to shore up those places that we kind of expect to do really well, but let's make sure.
Let's make sure. I
'Cause
think he's going to do well in
we
Washington.
were talking yesterday on Pat and Stu. Stu had some numbers about, I don't know, if things go the way they should, but if Trump pulls off a surprise like in Montana, or sometimes they're kind of weird in Montana.
Yeah, I know.
And they'll go Democrat. They'll elect a Democrat governor from time to time or senator.
Someone has a
I had
relative
two
in Montana?
Californians in
Somebody
my
does,
office yesterday. Two diehard former Clinton supporters. And I mean, like,
Really?
my bottoms for Rodham, that kind of supporter.
My bottoms
for Rodham. It was a short-lived campaign slogan a few years
You still see
back.
those bumper stickers from time
My
to
bottoms
time.
for Rodham. But,
I've never seen that.
but anyway, they were in my office, and they had just come from California, and they were talking to me about Ted Cruz and stuff. And they said they know a lot of Democrats that would so cross the aisle to vote for John Kasich if he was the nominee. And I said, that's amazing, because I don't know any Republicans that would cross the street to vote for him.
Well,
they're sick of Hillary Clinton. They're just sick of her.
Yes, I think that's true.
They want
And I think
Bernie?
also the issue with John Kasich is they haven't seen him at all. You got to remember, Kasich does
we talked
poll pretty well.
We talked about that, but these guys are really politically savvy, and they actually know who John Kasich is.
Well, if they're
And that
Democrats.
makes a good case.
Yeah.
I mean, as Ted Cruz, as Ted Cruz told us yesterday, the guy who is currently running Donald Trump's campaign is business partners with the guy running John Kasich's campaign,
Which was kind of
so it would be
news
like
to us,
it would
right?
be like Stu is running Donald Trump's campaign and I'm running Ted Cruz's campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
That's
you guys
just
are partners?
That's the outside campaign of Donald Trump.
That's just how outside the system they are.
It is interesting, though, and it fuels the fire of a governor from a swing state being vice president, throwing his delegates towards Trump.
Oh, yeah.
I
think it absolutely happens.
Maybe that's what Hannity was talking about. Maybe those conversations are going on.
Yeah. I think that absolutely happens. That Kasich stays in, he takes those delegates, and he throws them and says, I got you, I have your back, I'm your vice president. That could absolutely happen.
Well, that's exciting, huh?
Oh, wouldn't that be a dream come true, America?
Man.
There's the conservative ticket we're looking for. That ain't Bob Dole.
Oh my God! I mean, because Kasich is essentially a bad Bob Dole. Like he's not. He's not even Bob Dole. He's a bad Bob Dole.
He's a more liberal and less war hero Bob Dole.
Yeah,
right.
And he's
not a good
mean.
combination.
He's mean.
Yeah, he's not.
No matter what anybody, no matter this image of him just being an average Joe nice guy, he's not a nice guy.
It's a shtick, and that's why I think he polls well, because he's the one nice guy in this campaign is the only thing anyone's ever heard
I'm
of.
above the fray.
And then you have him as the VP, who's terrible. And I would not vote for him for president either.
No.
And then you vote.
Put that ticket together.
Trump on the top. I mean, that's the worst ticket. I mean, it's the worst ticket, even if you include every other nation on earth. The Kim Jong-un ticket was actually better than this ticket.
Really?
Because the VP there is pretty cool.
Some companies are more interested.
You can't let that one go like I was serious. I don't know anything about it.
Some countries are more interested in your money than doing what it takes to satisfying your needs. Now, this from Simply Safe. A family in North Carolina bought a home security system, and they did not buy it from Simply Safe, and the family changed their mind. Now, they had the right to cancel within a week. So, Mom, she calls the company. And the company that installed it said, "Well, we're not responsible for that. You'll have to call. We're just the national dealer. You have to call the local dealer." So she calls the local dealer. Spends 30 minutes on hold at the local place. The local place says, "We can't do anything about this. You have to call the national." And she said, "I just got off the national." She said, "Yeah, I understand that, but you got to call them back because they have to give you the approval number." No one is taking responsibility. 11 weeks later, this mom is still trying to get rid of the security system that they don't want. That will not happen with Simply Safe, because I met the founder. I know these people. They genuinely care. Their customer service is number one. They really believe in your product, and they're really trying to change the way you stay safe at night. Simply Safe also will never lock you into a contract. They never give you the runaround. They do what a good company is supposed to do. Treat you right and take care of your needs. Visit simplysafebeck.com and save 10% right now. It's simplysafebeck.com. 10% discount at simplysafebeck.com.
This is the Glenn Beck Program.
Mercury.
The Glenn Beck Program.
You know, we were just talking about Prince in the break and how he died, and I don't want to get into, I was a big Prince fan, and Jeffy was too.
Well, yeah, you guys have no taste. That's why.
Stu and Pat are just big animals, but
we're what?
I'm just thinking about. 57 years old. 57 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what I saw. I saw a movie recently, and a guy was dying. I don't remember what this was. Guy was dying. He had just been shot, and he said, "Don't leave me. Don't leave me." And the person stayed with him and said, "Just keep looking at me. It's going to be okay." And he, started to cry, and he said, I'm afraid. I'm scared." And then he died.
Play me Purple Rain. No?
No, okay. I was trying to go someplace.
Oh, I thought it was going to be.
This is why we talked about last hour. You try to have an interesting, deep conversation, and you can't.
You can. None of this.
No, go ahead. Where were you going?
Keep it at the surface. We're just going to keep it at the surface.
What did I do with
and then the commercial came on, and that was the end.
What did I do with that bottle of Jack?
No, I mean, when I met with Billy Graham, Billy looked me in the eye, and he meant it. He looked me in the eye, and we talked about his health, and he said, "I am not afraid of dying. I am just not afraid of dying. I've made mistakes in my life, but I tried my best, and I know where I'm going." And he said it with such conviction that I know when he finally slips the surly bonds of earth to touch the face of God, as the poem goes, he will not have that moment of fear. And I think it doesn't matter how you die, but if you don't have that, I want to die in my sleep. If you don't have that, that full knowingness, think about the moment of as you're going. Unless you're Billy Graham, as you're going, do you have not a flash of doubt that you're like, ooh, man, that's going to be hard. That's a scary moment.
First time I turned 57, I thought that, I'll tell you that.
The reason why we don't talk about it is because most people are afraid of it, and everybody who has experience with it is dead.
Right.
So you can't, but that must be a hair-raising experience to know that moment of, I am going to die. Must be really terrifying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say so.
There's some middle ground, right? When you're young, you can talk about dying, how you want to die, when you want to die. And then when you get really old, you want to talk about how you're going to die and all that. But in between there, you're just like, no.
I don't know, man. I'm 52. Stu, have you had this? And Jeff, you had to have this about 25 years ago. But after you pass 50, maybe, you do start to have those thoughts of, man, I'm on the downside now. But I'm not climbing up anymore. I'm going down the downside. And, I could live another 40 years, but you do start thinking about that.
20 of those are on a tube.
Prince is 57.
When you're 55, and if you do live 40 years, they're not all going to be great ones.
Right.
20 of those might be pretty good, and the last 20 are like,
on the tube.
This sucks.
On the tube.
So.
Well, that was up.
Yeah. Good news is, I'll be your best friend, old yeller.
Uh-huh.
I'll put you down.
Yeah. 2.5
out in the barn.
Cat's out in the barn. Somebody get the gun. Time to put him down.
This is the Glenn Beck Program. Mercury.
Tonight on The Wonderful World of Stu, the most important documentary of this century, maybe the millennia, will debut. You'll finally learn the sordid secrets behind nature's deadliest hot springs in the film Geysers.
Stop these terrible waterspouts of death!
You never know when that sneaky steam will attack. And Stu explains why Obamacare is the greatest failure of all time, while wearing a powder blue tuxedo, I might add, because he can. It's a free country. So don't miss the fun on a brand new episode of The Wonderful World of Stu. Tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern and on demand all weekend at theblaze.com/TV.
Yeah. You see, last night, Trump campaign confirmed that he has now hired an official speech writing team, and he is taking lessons on a teleprompter.
Mm-hmm.
So his campaign is going to change dramatically here soon.
And remember, the pitch to all of us, everyone who loved him, was he doesn't need a teleprompter. He'll never use a teleprompter. That's not him.
Doesn't back
He's only done one speech on a teleprompter, which was the speech on Israel, because
it wasn't written by him.
It was written by Ivanka's husband,
yes,
who also runs was it the New Yorker or New York? I can't remember whichever. No, it was the Observer. Yeah. He runs one of the part owners of the Observer, which coincidentally endorsed Donald Trump for the New York primary, which is shocking. But that's the only speech, and that was the one where he that's not his issue. Donald Trump's issue is not Israel. So he, I think, really needed the help to make a convincing speech there. It didn't sound like him at all, but he pulled it off.
He'll be good at a teleprompter and reading somebody else's words.
He's good at that. I mean,
Ted writes his own speeches. At least he has so far. He's written all of his own speeches, and that was surprising to me because I've heard a couple of his speeches that I thought were really, really good, and he writes them all. He writes them all.
Well,
go ahead.
It's going to be interesting to see Trump try to make that transition. And it's also
make it fine.
It's something, if you're on the fence of whether you should go out and, whether it's donate or volunteer for Cruz or anyone else, think about it seriously, because if Trump is getting the only opening is because Trump his ego has been so big that he's left this open for this long.
And he has made all of his mistakes. He's going to take all of his mistakes out.
But he's still left out there. I mean, we said that after he spoke, winning New York, and he called him Senator Cruz. And but then the next night he's calling him Lion Ted again. So there are going to be times when he's going to break back into Donald.
Yeah, there will be times, but the time is growing short as well. Now, I'm just saying, if you ever have thought, wow, our country is in trouble, and wow, we need to save the Constitution, now is the time to do it. You're running out of time. And quite honestly, as Megyn Kelly said, when all of this is done, I want to be on the side of angels. And I really, truly believe that's the right way to state it. You want to be on the right side of this one. Win or lose, you want to be on the right side of this one. Let me play something from Bill O'Reilly. He said the other night when he was talking to Donald Trump. Listen to this.
They said last night here on The Factor, the two most shocking political stories in my lifetime are the assassination of President John Kennedy and the rise to political prominence of one Donald J. Trump.
Stop there for a second. The two most shocking political stories of his lifetime. So I would say, okay, shocking and political, maybe I could give him that. Because I don't think any of us were shocked at the blue dress with Bill Clinton.
No.
I was like, what? He was making it with a girl in the White House? But shocking and political. Well, John F. Kennedy was not a political story. That was a world story.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it affected politics seriously.
It affected politics, but so did 9/11.
Right, yes.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So if you're looking at John F. Kennedy, that means you got to let off 9/11.
for some reason or another, but you got to dismiss that.
Reagan being shot.
A lot of that stuff. I mean, Nixon leaving the White House in disgrace.
RFK.
Bill Clinton being impeached, actual impeachment in our lifetime. RFK being shot. MLK being shot. I mean, some shocking things have happened.
Hostages.
Yeah, the hostages. I mean, the standing down, the building of the Statue of Liberty in Tiananmen Square. That was shocking to see. The fall of the Berlin Wall.
Yeah.
That was shocking.
You could say that he's talking American politics. I mean, that's more of a global politics issue. But I mean, we've named a bunch.
Yeah, we've named a bunch. But now listen. So I could take issue there, but that's not where I want to concentrate. Listen to the rest of this.
History will record that this was an uprising, a movement of the people supporting a candidate who has absolutely no ties to the political establishment.
Okay, stop.
Wait, what?
Wait.
Absolutely no ties?
Oh, no.
He's got ties to absolutely everyone in the
he said
establishment.
it was an uprising of the people, right?
Right.
What else did he say?
A guy with no ties to the
No
establishment.
ties. There was a third one.
I don't know the third one.
Okay, so it was an unexpected uprising of the people, and the support went to a guy with no ties. All right, let's just finish that out. There were no ties. This guy is tied directly to the hip of some of the dirtiest politicians of our lifetime.
Pelosi, Reid, Clinton.
Anthony Weiner, Schumer,
and Roger
Bloomberg,
Stone.
all of them.
Roger Stone.
Stone,
the ultimate dirty insider
on earth.
Yeah, the insider, dirty trickster. He's been tied with this guy for multiple decades.
He is not tied as a candidate, but he is tied directly to the system that is totally corrupt.
And let's be honest, too. He's either run or threatened to run in every election since the late 80s.
So that's not surprising. He's not tied, and it's not surprising that he has won or that he's run because he threatens every 4 to 8 years, right?
Yes.
So neither of those are surprising. It is the uprising of the people and their support of this guy. So he's giving Trump the credit. The only thing that he said that was accurate in this was the uprising of the people is one of the most shocking and newsworthy political stories in my lifetime. The rise of the Tea Party, the rise of the patriotic right, and not the crazy right, not the jingoistic right, but the constitutional right, the rise of the Tea Party. And the reason why people in the media find this so shocking about Donald Trump is because they dismissed and belittled all of the people all across the country that were rising up and getting involved and are now on school boards, now mayors, now new congressmen, people like Ted Cruz. He's a product of that uprising. Donald Trump is not a product of that uprising. And the media has completely missed the products of that uprising, and they dismissed us when we were all in the mall in Washington. They didn't listen to a word we were saying. And that's why now, when it actually affects them, because they don't care about the people, they only care about the president. They only care about the people who come into their studios. They only care about the people they have to write about. And so they only see the uprising of the people there were pissed off about something. It's not. The most shocking political story is the rising up of people who are based in the Constitution, who have not been heard, don't feel like they belong, have lost control of their life, and they have had enough of it. And they got involved. And it is the GOP that created Donald Trump. Well, it is the GOP, not the people. It is the GOP. If the GOP in 2010 and 12 and 14 would have listened to the American people, if they would have listened to their own base, Donald Trump would not be happening today. But they didn't. They just got worse and worse and worse and worse. And so Donald Trump exploited the angriest among us and that's his 30%. That's the story.
Well, I mean, in that uprising, obviously, gave birth to two of the biggest landslide elections in history.
And that was not led by any candidate. That is far more shocking than Donald Trump. No candidate led those things.
I mean,
that was led by the people.
First of all, the history will be written still because Donald Trump needs to freaking win, right? Yes. I mean, if he doesn't win, then obviously it's not the most surprising thing. It's an interesting aside to this cycle.
No, it's not. It is very fascinating because it's not a political story. I don't see the Donald Trump as a political story. I see it as a cultural story. Donald Trump's rise to the top tells me more about, and this is what I'm ashamed of, the rest of the world looks at us. It tells you more about the American people than our political process. Donald Trump doesn't tell you really anything about him, doesn't tell you anything about the party, doesn't tell you anything about anything. It tells you everything you need to know about the media. $2 billion of free advertising.
Certainly higher than that now.
That's $2 billion of free advertisement minimum by the time this thing is done, probably almost $3 billion.
But it's going to be higher than that.
Yeah. So that tells you everything you need to know about the media. The media only cares about their ratings. They have no principles, none. They will cover anything as long as it gets ratings. If it doesn't get ratings, they don't care. So it teaches us about our culture in the media, and it also tells us how far gone the American culture really is of good, of truth, justice, and the American way. How much will we take? How much will we? You know what? My wife is a principal in a school, and she was called to classroom because one of the kids rose a middle finger towards the teacher and didn't do it at the teacher, just did it and said something like the teacher was watching and he was just making a joke, like fifth grade, making a joke and raised his middle finger and said, how's that one? Something like that. And teacher was like, can you come here for a second? Principal's office. You know why he did it? Donald Trump does it. Donald Trump does it. Now, I've never seen Donald Trump do that.
I don't think I have either.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen Donald Trump do that. But the culture is to the point to where our kids are justifying their actions by saying, that guy does it. It's okay for him.
No, it's also a story I missed from your wife's school where she's principal.
Why would you have the details?
I don't know. I don't know why I'd have those details.
Because Pat owns the school.
Oh, weird.
Owns the
So,
school.
I mean, you're supposed to be told everything?
So, and you're like, well, that kind of
She
thing.
she doesn't tell you a lot of things, Pat. We're slowly taking over the school.
I don't think we should
Go ahead and say it.
Go ahead, please do.
I knew it was coming.
Please do.
I don't think we're better friends than that. Or you could look at it this: we're not that good of friends.
Right. I don't think we should underplay, however, how big of a story this is. You're talking about, I mean, was the Whig Party going away a big story? I mean, what we're looking at here is potentially the utter destruction of one of the two approaches towards government. There has been a small government approach and a big government approach. We are deleting one of those two.
Yes.
In the middle of this election. It is not minor. It's not a little story. It is a huge story. And the fact that we're turning into a country that has no options for people who even want to limit government is a major political story.
Huge political story. You're right on that. But that's not what he's saying. Now, news from China. China's shift to official local currency-based gold fixing is the culmination of a 2-year plan to move away from U.S.-centric monetary system. This is coming from Ho Hong in China. I love Ho and the whole Hong family.
Ho is actually my favorite Hong.
Thank you.
Is he?
I'm 100% in agreement with that.
You hear what they're saying? Official local currency based on gold is now, after 2 years, getting away from the currency that is based on the American dollar. They are chipping away at the dominance of the U.S. dollar, and at some point, and we predicted this 10 years ago, at some point, when China has enough and says we're going to be stable, they're going to yank the rug from out underneath us. Smart economists know that in a time of instability, gold is a valuable asset. Have something tangible and real that you can hold in your hands like gold or silver. Even in times of prosperity, gold and silver can be an important part of having a diverse investment portfolio, but especially in times like today. Call Goldline now, 1-866-465-3546. That's 1-866-GOLDLINE. I know these people, they're waiting for your call right now, 1-866-GOLDLINE. Ask how you can receive up to 10% off your order in free metals at goldline.com.
This is the Glenn Beck Program. Mercury.
This is the Glenn Beck Program.
I think we picked this story back up on Monday because that's huge. What is the big story out of this? Bill O'Reilly says it's Donald Trump. I think it's the rise of the Tea Party because of the destruction, the internal destruction of the GOP, and I think the big story is yet to come. The ending of the conservative movement as it has always been in America. That's the story.
Yeah. And, you know, one of the big stories around all of this is the delegate count and whether or not it's right for Cruz to have locked up delegates or take delegates from him.
The way it works.
You know what? It's like when a big recruit, like a 5-star blue chip recruit in high school, one of the most talented players in the country, has all these colleges coming to him and they say, hey, we're going to offer you a 4-year scholarship. And then the next school, USC, offers him a 4-year, and so does Notre Dame, and so does Missouri. And everybody's offering him, and he finally says yes to BYU. He's verbally committed. That doesn't